Alright, this is my hill climb racer demo. It's what I chose for the graduate project. I decided to flesh it out a little more, give the user some selection options, and really kind of hone in some of the graphics a little bit. So I'll jump right into the demo. First level here is the garage. You can use the A and the S key to swap between which one you select. A is the speedy racer, S is the mountain racer. So I'll select the speedy racer just for starting. The 1, 2, and 3 keys allow you to change the level. 1 is the garage, 2 is a flat terrain, and 3 is a mountainous terrain. So I'll press 2, go to the flat terrain. Use the forward key to go forward, the backwards key to go backwards, and press spacebar to stop. I can also press R to reset my position. This will only reset me to the last checkpoint, which is important because that's going to come in a bit. I can also use the home key to totally reset a level. Okay, so I'm going to start through here. I'm going to pass through this gate, which is a sensor. I get a start on the output. And then I'm going to pass through that final gate. I could not stop in time, but the level was complete, and it showed that I finished in 6.5 seconds out here. So, don't want that showing. Okay, so that was all fine and dandy. So something that is worth showing, though, is that you really want to make sure you choose the right car for the environment. So if I select the mountain racer and go try that one again, first off, we can see it's a little more springy, but also, it doesn't have any trouble getting through here necessarily, but it's going to be much slower. So that was 6.5. This was 8 seconds. So really, it's a big difference over a larger level for sure. So the objective is to make sure you choose the right car for the environment. So if you go back to the garage, select the speedy racer and do the mountain level, we'll start this up. And this is going to struggle a bit to really go, because you can see the car's, it's much higher suspension and it accelerates faster, so it's not going to be nearly as well suited for this. Oh, there we go. Well, I got through the first checkpoint, but I'm on my head. So even though I'm on my head, I can press the R key and it'll reset me at that checkpoint since we passed through it. So that's really powerful. So now we can have really long levels if we want to, where the user doesn't have to restart from the beginning every time. They can. It might be for like a level objective to not have to use any restarts. Oh no. But as we can see, I finished that in 39 seconds. So if I choose the mountain racer and try that again, you see that it's having a much easier time navigating the terrain here. And it's not going to like speed through it super fast, but it's going to get through that dependably, which that really makes it easier in a sense, because that other car, we flipped over once or twice, and that time really adds up. So we did that in 21 seconds. Now, so we almost doubled our time, or halved it, I should say. You really do have to pick the right car for the given scenario to be good at the game. So let's dive into the actual design of the game. So Hill Climb Racer is kind of a base class for all the racers, and if I dive into the class here, we'll see it implements a lot of the functionality of the base car already, so it doesn't have to worry about some of the kind of monotonous stuff, and just kind of gets that out of the way. And it also handles the collisions at a base level, because most of them should interact with collisions always the same way. You could have a specialized version if you need it, but for my purposes, I did not need it, so this simplified things a little bit more. So if I jump into the Speedy Racer class, we can see it doesn't have to implement a whole lot, so it's a lot easier to just focus on the design of the specific car you're going for. You'll notice that the wheels, I have 2 car wheel classes here, those are implemented at a implementation level instead of the Hill Climb Racer level, and that's because there could be a scenario where you need more than 2 tires. If maybe you wanted a truck with an 18-wheelers or something like that, or maybe you wanted a 6-wheel car. So you'd have that option, you have that flexibility. So let's talk about the wheels for a second. So the wheels themselves, they deal with the B2 wheel joint, and also they have a reference to the car that it's attached to, so it can all be part of the same body. So it doesn't have to worry about a whole bunch of bodies in the scene. You don't have to do weird stuff. Um, Also, it does some of the heavy lifting with setting up the joints. So when you actually implement it in the car creation class, which I'll kind of look at right here, when we want to create the wheels, it's just a one line per wheel, really, and that kind of really makes things simple. So you don't have to worry too much about implementation details when we're designing these cars, and we can give different variables. So we can give it a different length, the height that it's off the ground. We can give the wheels their own radius. We can give a traction coefficient and how much spring the car has. So that really affects the gameplay, because what you'll notice is even here you can kind of see that the truck is a little more springy, so it kind of jumps back and forth. And that's why it's so good at these mountain levels, because it's able to really pad those rough terrains and smooth it out for itself almost. So when we pass through those gates, we have this hill climb racer gate. So that it has a sensor object on it, and it does the collision cycle. And when a car passes through that sensor, it fires off a event callback. And the implementations are, we have a start course, an enter checkpoint, and a finish course event. So you can respectively start the course, and which starts the timer. You can enter a checkpoint, which sets a respawn point, and you can finish the course, which outputs your time in it. To actually do those output operations and sets, there's a level manager. There's one per level. So what you can do is you can get a specific racer, you can set the reset point, you can get the elapsed time since it went through the start time, and you can reset the car from there as well. So that kind of helps encapsulate everything into a nice, easy to use system. And then also what you'll notice is when I select a car in the garage, it's able to appear in the other scenes. So the way I figured this out was I have a manager that's a singleton class, and it takes a enum type of the racer that you want. So when you want to swap out the racer that you're using, you just set the enum type, and then the hill climb factory actually has a static create method and also a destroy racer method as well. So it's easy to create and clean up when you enter into a scene just by asking for the enum type. So yeah, that's kind of the major part of the car mechanics. So for the terrain, I use the lunar terrain from the lunar lander demo, and I also use the camera following mechanism to make sure the camera stays on the car. So the lunar terrain, it has, you can make it, you can give it parameters for the start and end point, and you can also give it a roughness value in addition to a seed. So you can kind of have a totally random generation if you want, if you don't supply a seed, but you can supply one so you can have a dependably random, so it's the same every time for you, which, you could give it a random element if you so pleased. However, for these demos, I wanted to make sure that, I was going to have a consistent thing to work with. So, I can increase this terrain roughness here, so it's 150, but if I, for instance, increase it to 750, that's what makes the mountainous terrain that much more rough, which is, it's really great for doing a quick and easy variation in your scene. So for input management, same thing as I did with Angry Birds, I have input controllers, and each controller has its own keyboard listening functionality. So we have one for the car and the reset, and we also have one for the garage where we select a different car. And the hill climb level controller is responsible for, the 1, 2, and 3 keys, and the home key, which actually restarts the level completely instead of just resetting your checkpoint. And then lastly, we have the scene management itself, which uses a state pattern, which is the same as what I did in Angry Birds. And this, we have the 3 objects here, and the way it chooses which state is you pass in an enum value, and it just matches the enum value and sets the active state to whichever scene you selected, and it unloads the old scene. So yeah, just to kind of go through it one more time, forward key for going forward, backwards key for backwards, space to stop, R to reset your checkpoint, and you can use home key to totally reset the level. And so I think that's about it. So thank you so much.